This is Pierre Vidal working on Planet Technologies. I like provocative questions, so give me a good reason why you're still using Outlook. I asked this question because not a long time ago, somebody told me, "I hate Teams," and somebody was using Teams for a long time, and I was really surprised. And I love Teams and hate Outlook. So how can we go to that point where really I think Teams is a time server? It changed my life, and I think Outlook is really bad. So let's discuss that a little bit to with a few comparison between Outlook and Teams. So let's start with the first thing I think is in Outlook, I don't feel in control because I cannot decide who's going to send me an email. It can be somebody from my organization, my manager, some colleagues, somebody from outside the company, somebody a partner or whatever. So I'm submissive. In Teams, there's a difference. I can manage notifications. I can manage to be notified only when I want to be notified. So I encourage everybody to look at the customized way of uh, being notified. So it's in your settings. You can customize how you get notified, and it will save you time. Definitely. Another point is in Outlook, everything is flagged. So I receive one email to etc. and 100 emails. Manager receiving more than 100 emails per day. So it's flat, and after a while, your emails are buried. The first one are buried. So in general, maybe you catch up in the morning, the first one, and then you're in a meeting or you're doing something. You're focusing on doing something, and then you have hundreds of emails to catch up with, and they're all mixed all together. So it's hard to figure out what is important, and not only figure out what is important, but what is the context. With Teams, when you have a message in Teams, it's posted in a channel or it's a chat. So if it's a chat, you're in the context of the group chat, the people you or the chat, the people you're talking to, you're discussing with. When it's a channel, you're in the context of a team, so the general purpose, and a channel because there's a topic. Channel is a topic, so you know exactly the context of this communication. So it saves you time. You don't have to figure out what is the context, and that's a big difference. Also, in Outlook, uh, emails are not transparent. It's the worst way to communicate. It was a good way past a long time ago when there was nothing, just a phone call um, or sending a letter for sure. But we have evolved, and now it's not transparent. Only the recipient will see the email, unless they forward the email. They put people in copy. They forward the email. They put people in CCI. So there's you can expand who's going to see it, but it's a mess. It's noisy. It's a mess. You're totally confused. When you post in a team, it's transparent. Everybody who has access to the team will see the communication. So everybody, even if they're not notified, they can see the communication. So it's transparent. You don't assume that people uh, have read your email that you post in a team. It's transparent. Everybody has access to it and can see the communication. And you don't assume that people, um, you know, in reality, if you're sending an email to recipients, you might miss some people. You might forget about some people. I live that often in a project team. We have several people working in the project, and some email are just focusing on some part of the communication, like we're doing a big cloud project, and there's several engineers with several specialties, and maybe some engineers will think that it's just a collab piece of communication, so they just send the email to the collab people, and they don't send the email to the OCM people. assuming that it's not valuable for them. But maybe it's valuable. Maybe they talk about governance that has an impact on users. So I would like to know when they do that in Teams, what we do. Fortunately, it's in a channel that is not my prime channel, but at least I know there's a new message there. I can go there, see what has been said, see if it's useful for me or not. So it's more transparent. So it's better for my business, better for my work. People are still sending email with attachment, which is really annoying. This is a worst case use case, worst practice, because I have customers who do that all the time, and they have to reconcile the document at the end of the day or the week with several versions of document. They don't even know which one is the latest one. It's a nightmare, just a nightmare. Why in Teams everything is up to date? You have one document, you can see all of the history. You have one version, the latest version. You can see who have made change without having to track the document. You can comment on the document. This is really, one version, one source of truth. So it's way better than sending email with attachment. Emails are, there's no sense of priority. Maybe you can say it's an important email, but usually there's no sense of priority. So everything is, since it's flat, everything is at the same level. So if you go asking to go for lunch, then you're gonna have a thread and maybe an important email in the middle that will be buried. Even if the conversation featuring Outlook, it helps to figure out and group emails, but still it's a lot of conversation all mixed up without any priority. In Teams, it's already in context. If you want to have lunch, just use chat. It's in the context of the group chat, the people you're talking to. Even if you got somebody, you can add the person after and tell and then you can include the previous conversation in the to be visible for the new person. But you can make your posts in Teams more catchy. You can add some visual first. If you tag it as important, you will see a red line on the side. Visually, you will see that it's important. You can make it an announcement. You can add a header. You can even have an image as a header, so it's very visual, very appealing. So it's way better to communicate and be on top of things. Usually people like to use Outlook because they feel in control. You will see if you discuss with people love Outlook and hate Teams. Even if they have too many emails, they don't love Outlook for the number of emails, but they love the tool. But it's people who like to be in control because they can organize their email the way they want. They can, drag and drop in folders, organize the emails how they want. They can create rules, complex rules. It's a mess to manage, but in the past we only had that, so that's how we did this. So it's true that managing email is easier from an individual perspective, but what is the most important? To make people feel comfortable using the tool like Outlook and don't change ever, or to create alignment and transparency and make people well aware of what's going and have all the context they need, not missing anybody, not missing somebody who's joining the project, for example, after the fact. You won't have all the emails for sure. So here we'll have all the conversation in your Teams. So we'll have a better context, better understanding of what's going on. So it's really a matter of a decision or organization decision or team decision. At least you could decide that at the team level. But it's really a matter of deciding what culture you want to foster, a culture of alignment or a culture of individuals, just like if your enterprise was a bunch of freelance. So I think it's really an important decision to be made and have in mind. People are complaining to have too many emails, and I shouldn't lie. You can complain. That's just what was the case with my colleague, she had too many notifications. But does this mean that she should translate in I hate Teams? I don't think so. I think that it's not the tool you should blame. It's the governance. It's the way people interact with you. They maybe probably over mention you, or maybe she wants to be too much in control, so she's part of too many teams. Um, I cannot argue if it's not me to make the call if she has to be on all the teams. But I think the problem is more in terms of governance, how you build some sort of consensus on how you communicate with people, so it saves time to everybody, and not over at mentioning people. But it's true that if you're noisy in Outlook, you're probably going to be noisy in Teams. And the problem is that then you have too noisy source, and this is madness. I understand why then you say I hate that, because I have one more channel of communication. It's too much for me. But if you take some time to discuss about the governance best practices to work together, it should initially, when you start to deploy Teams, there's an overhead for sure, because you have two sources of communication. But after a while, Outlook should decrease. So, and since even if you still have a lot of communication in Teams, that might not reduce the overall number of communications, but definitely will help, because it will be in context. You will know what it is about, and you won't have everything flat. So the last thing I want to talk is maybe the exception. You know, I'm using Outlook because if I want to send an email, communication outside of my organization, that's the only way I can do it. Even though that now that in Teams, you can do a group chat with people who are in Teams on other tenants, but they need to be in Teams. Also, you can create a team with guests, and they don't need to be in Teams. They just need a browser. And they can even install the app if they want, but they don't need a license. So you could do that. I do that with some customers. I create a team in our tenant, I invite them, and we discuss the project, because when we work on the document, for example, I usually prepare a presentation for manager to present the project to the managers. If I want to have some conversation around this deck, and I have some amendment made on their side and some suggestion on my side, and if I do that by mail, it's just a nightmare. Even if I do that in Outlook with OneDrive. So even if I use OneDrive, so in Teams, I just explain, post my deck, and they can change it, make some comments, make some changes, and it's done. I have the latest version. They have the latest version. So that maybe the only exception is, when you connect with somebody outside of your organization, at the exception of this example of inviting people in a team and as a guest. That might be the only exception, but to me, that's my day-to-day life. I don't have any unread email. I don't have any unread activity in Teams. I'm on top of my communication all the time. It's never been a day where I ended the day with too many emails or too many notifications that I didn't read. It's probably because people know that that's a way I function, that I won't react quick enough if they ask me something in Outlook. It's probably also the way we're working at Planet. We're really into teams. We define some governance. They're all not respected all the time, so there might be still some issues, but we're doing a very good job here. And it's probably also because I don't have a lot of interactions as a manager can have, but still I think if I do it, I still have a lot of customers, a lot of interactions. If I do it, I succeed to do it. I think it's not just because I know very well the tools, it's because I establish best practices, what I call digital etiquette. When I talk with my customer, I talk about digital etiquette to, I lead by example. I don't recommend something that I'm not convinced, I'm not using. So that's how I succeed in a way. And I think that was the point of sharing this video with you, so you can see if you can define those governance. I think the key point here is it's not just about the tools. The tools bring some benefits, but also it's on top of this, you need to have some guidance and best practices, some governance to define. And finally, my final word will be, teams, it's not just about the tool, it's about the governance, but it's cultural shift and collaboration. If you compare it to communication in Outlook, in email, collaboration is all about compromise. You compromise on how you're going to interact. You compromise how you're going to structure your team. You compromise how you're going to structure your file, how you're going to work together. It's all about compromise. But compromising in a transparency environment creates momentum. Hope it was helpful.